Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to talk to you about an important aspect of English grammar, passive voice. Understanding how the passive voice works can enhance both your writing and speaking skill, particularly when you want to emphasize the object or the action rather than the subject. During this presentation, we will dive into how the passive voice is used in various tenses. By the end of the session, you will understand when and how to use the passive voice across different contexts, and you will be more comfortable applying it to your our English language use. Okay, we're going to start with the structure of the passive voice, then move short each of the tensions, explaining how it form and providing example along the way. Understanding the passive voice. First, let's define what the passive voice is. The passive voice is a grammatical construction where the object of the action becomes the subject of the sentence. In contrast, in the active voice, where the subject of the sentence performs the action, in the passive voice, the subject receives the action. For example, in the active voice, you might say, I clean the house every day. In the passive voice, the sentence would be the house is cleaned every day by. The focus in the passive voice is on the action and the object receiving the action, her, the house, rather than the person performing the action. This shift is useful in a variety of contexts, especially in formal writing or when the subject performing the action is unknown or not important. Okay, the general structure of for passive sentence is object followed by to be like am or is or are, and followed by verb to. Next, forward by and forward object or pronoun. And verb T is the past participle from the verb. Okay, and by is introducts the agent, the door of the action. So it can be omitted if the agent is unknown or irrelevant. First, let's start with one of the most common tenses, the simple present tense. Okay. We use this tense to describe general thoughts, habits, or regular action. To from the passive voice is the passive voice in this tense. We use am, is, or are depending on the subject, followed by the past participle of the verb. Okay, example. Active voice is I clean the house every day, and the passive voice is the house is cleaned every day. Okay, and her is cleaned is the passive form of the verb clean. The object, the house, becomes the subject of the sentence, and the focus is of the house that is being cleaned rather than the person who is cleaning it. In everyday communication, the passive voice is the simple present is used when we don't want to emphasize the person doing the action or when the action itself it's more important. For instance, you were giving instruction like the room is cleaned every morning. The emphasis is on the regular action, not on who is performing it. Now let's talk about the present continuous tense, which is used to describe action that are happening right now or are ongoing. In the passive voice, we form it with or is or are followed by being and then the past participle of the verb. Okay, for the example, active voice is I'm cleaning the house every day. And for passive voice, the house is being cleaned every day. Okay? In this case, is being cleaned shows that the action is ongoing and it is still happening as we speak. Using the passive voice, or emphasize the object, the house, that is currently undergoing the cleaning process rather the person ra- rather than the person cleaning it. Okay. This passive construction is useful when you want to focus on the action being performed in the present, especially if the performer of the action isn't central to the message you want to convey. Okay, on, uh, moving on to the present perfect tense. Okay, we use this tense to talk about action that started in the past and are still relevant or have effect in the present. Okay. Two from the passive voice in the present effect, we use has been or have been followed by the past participle. For example, in active voice is I have cleaned the house every day, and the passive voice is the house has been cleaned every day. Here we see the result of an action that has been complete. The focus in on the house, which has already been cleaned, which has already been which has been cleaned. The passive construction is useful when we want to highlight the completed action and its relevance to the present moment, especially when the agent or performed action is not important to the sentence. In situation where we are more concerned with what has happened rather than who did it, the passive voice is highlight effect. For example, the report has been submitted. The emphasis the submission rather than the person who submitted it. Okay. Next, let's look at the simple past tense, which is used to describe action that happened and especially time in the past. True from the passive voice in the simple past, we use was or were following by the past participle. Example in active voice is I cleaned the house every day. And for the passive voice is the house was cleaned every day. This shows that the action of cleaned occurred regularly in the past. The passive voice focus on the result of the cleaning action, the house being cleaned, rather than the person clean doing the cleaning. The passive voice is often used for writing or reports, especially when the agent performing the action is not relevant to the context. Okay, next, the past continuous tense. The past continuous tense is used for action that were happened at a specific time in the past. Okay, in the passive voice, we use was or were being followed by the past participle of the verb. Okay, for the example, in active voice, I was cleaning the house every day, and the passive voice is the house was being cleaned every day. Okay, this contraction tell us that the cleaning action was ongoing in the past, and again, the emphasis is on the object, the house, that was being cleaned rather than on the cleaner. Okay. Next, the past perfect tense is used to describe action that had already been completed before another action in the past. To form the passive voice in the past perfect tense, we use had been followed by the past participle. For example, in active voice, I had cleaned the house every day. And the passive voice will be the house had been cleaned every day. In this case, we are focusing on the result of the action complete before another event in the past. The use of the passive voice help emphasize the fact that the house was already cleaned before some other event took place. Okay, and next in the simple future tense, we talk about action that will happen in the future. In the passive voice, we use will be followed by the past participle. Example, in active voice, I will clean the house every day, and in the passive voice is the house will be cleaned every day. Here, the focus is on the house that will be cleaned in the future. Using the passive voice, emphasize the object that will undergo the action rather than the person who will perform it. And finally, let's discuss the future continuous tense, which is used to describe action that will be happening at a specific time in the future. In the passive voice for the future continuous, we use will be being followed by the past participle. Okay, an example is for passive voice is I will be cleaning the house every day. And passive voice is the house will be being cleaned every day. Okay. This construction emphasizes that the action for cleaning will be ongoing in the future, and the house will be the focal point on that action rather than the person performing it. Okay. To conclude, we have covered how the passive voice is used in various tenses, from simple present to future continuous. The key takeaway is that the passive voice helps us shift the focus of a sentence from the subject performing the action to the object receiving the action. This is especially useful when the agent is unknown, irrelevant, or when we simply want to emphasize the result of the action rather than the person doing it. Okay, by understanding and applying the passive voice across different tenses, we can enhance our communication, making it clear, more focused, and more adaptable to different contexts. Whether we are writing a formal report, delivering a presentation, or telling a story, knowing how to use the passive voice allows us to highlight the most important parts of our message. Okay, thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take them note. Thank you guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.